Welcome to the I Fired My Boss franchise podcast. My name's Dan Claps, founder and CEO of Franchise Playbook, a franchisor platform where we create, own, and operate dynamic franchise brands in the mobile services space. And my life's goal is to help people just like you fire their boss and become a business owner.
And I'm Christian Dadulak, top franchise consultant and co-founder of Real Franchising, a leading franchise consulting firm. And together, we're on a mission to help people fire their boss, hire themselves, and live the American dream through franchise ownership.
Welcome to another episode of I Fired My Boss franchise podcast, previously Franchise Founders podcast. At the time of recording this, I think this is the first time that I am saying that we made some announcements that we're changing our podcast name. And for the audience, we've decided that we wanted this to really start to go in a direction of stories of franchisees and people that purchase a franchise and how they left corporate and made that journey, or if they're in corporate, thinking about the journey. And so we've changed the title, and this is my first time saying that on the podcast. So, Greg, you get to be the first guest. Nice to see you, Greg. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing well. I appreciate you guys coming on. That was a surprise for me, so I'm just as surprised as the rest of the folks listening. So that's awesome. Congrats on the rebrand.
Thank you. It feels a little bit more. We found that it's more helpful to hear from franchisees and people that are kind of living it, right, than a lot of the franchisors, which are still great. It's great to hear from them and hear their perspective, but it's also very helpful for, I think, a lot of our audience who are looking into buying a franchise. It's helpful for them to hear from people that are in it and not just hearing the rosy, awesome side of things, but the challenges, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all of it. So, that's where we're kind of pivoting to. So
yeah, that's great.
But anyway, today's not about that. Today's about learning about you, Greg, and hearing your story and that sort of thing. So let's dive into it, man. I mean, obviously on this show, we typically don't do the bio for you because nobody knows your story better than you. So how did you get into franchising and what is kind of your story, man? We'll start there and then let's go from there.
Sure. No, definitely. So, we kind of briefly talked about it a little bit beforehand, but yeah, so I grew up in South Carolina and, ended up going to the University of South Carolina and I ended up playing basketball there. So I played basketball at South Carolina for a couple of years and then ended up getting hurt and, transferring. So I transferred to Wofford College, which is in a little small Division I school in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So finished up there, played 3 years there. And then so really my story, professionally didn't start until then I got to play professional basketball overseas. So I played pro basketball in Greece actually for 5 years. So in the mid 2000s, I was over there. So I'm a Greek, now I have my Greek citizenship. Had a Greek background. So, it was sort of easier to transition over there and be able to get in. And so you sign a contract, and I played in 5 different cities over those 5 years. So just a really awesome, super lucky to have been able to experience that. And I wanted to keep playing, but we were talking, Christian, I was your age. I was, in my late 20s and, kind of said, hey, you don't want to be in your mid 30s, kind of still hanging on and, not having something to sort of fall back on. And I've seen I've seen that with a lot of former athletes and teammates of mine. And so, I kind of had that moment, but at the same time, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was, didn't really, as I mentioned to you earlier, didn't really have a lot of translatable skills outside of playing sports and a college degree. So, and I was 27, 28 years old. So anyway, I became a social worker actually. My degree was in sociology. And so, I joined the Department of Social Services in South Carolina. So I was a social worker for about 6 months. And it's kind of interesting because, I still remember my paycheck was $734 every 2 weeks. Was the social work paycheck, and I saw some stuff in those 6 months that you definitely deserve a lot more money in that field. So I did that, and then a buddy of mine, kind of how I got into recruiting. A buddy of mine I went to high school with, he called me and he said, "Hey, Waffle House is hiring a recruiter," and I was like, "I don't know anything about recruiting. I'm sure you have to have a certification or something." And he said, "No, no, they'll interview you. And I said, well, I got a college degree, man. I'm not working at Waffle House, I'm going to work in a really professional organization. Then, so he said, well, you're making $30,000 a year now. So this one starts you at 36,000. So, it was one of those deals where it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should go to that interview then. So long story short, 9 years later, I was still, so I worked in South Carolina for a year with those folks, and then got promoted to come to Florida in 2012. And so I've been here ever since, and, didn't really have any connections to Florida, but kind of made a life down here. And then sort of an executive recruiter reached out to me 2019 and, said this company, this large Taco Bell franchisee is looking to, really build a broad recruiting organization. And, we like what you've done at Waffle House and your athletic background that, hopefully can relate to, talent. And so, yeah, they gave me a shot, and sort of here I am 4 years later. And so now we've started with me sitting in a room and a computer kind of staring like, what did I get myself into? Cause I don't know. I've never built a recruiting organization before now we have a team of almost, 15 people, I guess it is. So it's been pretty fun, man. It's been pretty fun. So sorry for the long-winded, version, I guess, but that's sort of my story.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. So Taco Bell, I mean, obviously I think everyone on this podcast has probably eaten there. I went to Arizona State for school myself. And so they had a very, very busy Taco Bell location on the corner of Apache and Rural, I think it was.
Oh, nice.
At 2 a.m., all the kids would be there. It'd be packed to the brim with a bunch of drunk kids.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. I can't even imagine. I mean, that franchise owner must have been ranking in the dough. But so I think everyone knows Taco Bell. But what are some of the highlights of working with Taco Bell? I mean, what's it like working with the Taco Bell franchisee? What's the culture like? And how's that?
No, it was really interesting. I've listened to a couple of you guys podcasts over the last few days, and something that struck me just hearing from y'all is for me, it was the biggest transition coming. So I work for Waffle. I always say Taco Bell when I mean Waffle House. But I worked for Waffle House on the corporate side. So Waffle House has no, they moved from about a half and half franchise model to taking back over most of those franchises. And I think with the goal of becoming fully corporate over through the years. So long story short, it's more of a corporate organization. You have your corporate hierarchy and, that the sort of bureaucracy that comes with that, which is good in a lot of ways, but also, less sort of autonomy for, creativity and things like that. And now coming to the franchise world where it was a real eye-opening experience for me. Cause, I remember 4 years ago sitting in that office saying like, waiting for direction, right? Waiting for somebody to because in a corporate environment, they're going to tell you what they want. And, and you just sort of implement that plan. And so after about a week, I realized that nobody was coming to tell me anything. And so that was my first sort of foray into understanding the difference between the franchise mentality and a corporate mentality. And so over the last 4 years, I've come to the realization that I'm more comfortable in that environment than I don't think I could go back to working in a corporate environment again after being part of a franchise. So that's been my experience, been very positive in that sense because of it. Yeah.
So you're with it's SEQSR is the franchisee. What does that stand for something? And then
so we have
part of that organization.
Yeah, so we have several entities, but we have about 200 restaurants, and we're across 5 states. So we have a good portion of the majority. I'd say the majority of our stores are in Florida. However, we're throughout the Southeast essentially, and we build 5 to 7 new stores a year. And so that's kind of our footprint. I forgot what you said, what you asked me before. But that's kind of our footprint.
200 stores.
Yes, sir.
Under the umbrella. And you said this is a privately held?
We are. Yeah. So we're privately held by one owner. So we're very unique in that sense. And, most companies, we're in the top 4 or 5 largest Taco Bell franchises in the country. Go ahead.
Wait, this is an interesting concept to unpack a bit for our listeners. So
yeah.
one owner, if you don't like, just for like the short version of like, where did this owner come from? Like
Sure.
he bought one store, is very, very, very wealthy, or
Yeah.
like where did he start?
No, so he has an investment banking background. So
Okay.
he came 30 years ago from I think he was in the Chase rotational program in New York City, and he quickly found out he didn't want to be on Wall Street, and so he's very entrepreneurial. So I think he actually started he grew his first businesses in Atlanta. And so he started with I want to say porta potties. So they had like 80 porta potties or something, and they would truck them around to different places. Him and his business partner that still is our COO today. So they got a really cool story in that sense. So yeah, so he was and he had investors along the way, but he's since taken over most of it himself. So it's kind of unique in the sense that we're not beholden to some private equity group that kind of pulls the strings to what we do. It's one guy, and so he's in it for the long haul. So it's kind of nice.
That's amazing. So let's talk about this a little bit first. So there's one guy, and what does that org structure look like? Like, is it him and then you as or the CEO running some of the show, and then you, like, how does that work to run 200 stores?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah. So we have a CEO, a COO, and then the head of operations. So the CEO is, the CEO and COO, they came from finance. So they're finance background guys. So our organization really has a theme of more of an investment banking firm than it does a restaurant organization. And that's probably why I think we're number 1 or 2 in the rankings for Taco Bell supplies. That we don't even supply the rankings, but we're up there. And so we have a pretty fast paced, high intensity company in that sense. But yeah, so CEO, COO, head of operations, and then you have the different department leaders. So, you'll have HR. I'm the director of talent acquisition, facilities, construction, all that.
So it's interesting because this is a topic of debate often about, owning a business and having operating partners or having people, run the business. This is at the extreme where someone's able to own 200 locations.
Sure.
And I have a friend that owns 120 Popeyes, and he is definitely outside. It's a village. His whole family is involved. It's amazing. But the entire uncles and aunts and everyone.
Yeah.
It's an empire.
You see that a lot in Popeyes, actually. I've talked to a lot of folks that you see that same theme.
Yeah, yeah. I'll never forget because in my early 20s, I was a business broker, and I listed the Parikh family. They had smash burgers. They hired me to list it, and I thought he was like Bobby Axelrod, man. They came in, he's like, I'm just trying to make some money today. Like, he was very casual. So,
Yeah.
Me too, man. 120 Popeyes. But so on this topic though, so they there's this org chart that's in place. And then and maybe you can't get into the details, but like, are the managers involved in like the EBITDA performance of the business?
Yeah.
Is everyone trying to, how does that work?
No, that's a great question. And no, happy to talk about that. What I would say is we're probably unique other than, coming from other brands, because we do allow the GMs to see their P&Ls and they manage their P&L. So, it's that same vein that runs through, I think, our whole company. It's that sort of business ownership mentality. And so, yeah, so they see their P&Ls, we train them to, we have furthering education and training constantly on how to manage your P&L, how to manage your labor. Whereas a lot of other companies I've seen, there's no line of sight to the P&L. It's, particularly in corporate organizations.
I couldn't agree more. Like, my background has been in business and in franchising. When I launched Playbook, this past summer, after exiting my business, I became obsessed with the private equity structure. I'm fascinated by how they're able to run businesses and everyone is aligned. And so I spent a lot of time learning about structuring companies. And so when we structured Playbook, we're kind of like PE in the way we structured our business. And everyone, I believe in that full transparency. There's a great book out there called The Great Game of Business. Okay. And that book talks about it's The Great Game of Business. And it talks about basically this level of management where people can see the P&L, total transparency. And at the end of the day, like, if you're working at Amazon as a corporate person, you could see that the business is spitting off a certain amount. Jeff Bezos is worth a certain amount. Mm-hmm. This is an extreme, but like, you don't then say, well, Jeff, I deserve way more. The market pays you what you're able to make. Like, you can't just say, well, you're making billions, so I need to make millions, right? So sure. This belief that, like, as a business owner, if you take the financial risk and you put the time, you deserve the capital that you're making. But when your team can see what the business is making, as long as you're of course paying them well, people, you'd be surprised when people see, hey, wow, we're not making as much as I thought. This is way harder. Wow, we lost money this month. Now they have some ownership in it. And so that's really interesting how you guys keep that structured.
I was going to ask you guys a question if you had seen this in your franchise experience, but what I've seen over the years, and I'm a great example of the story, I guess, is that large franchises, and my CEO told me this, and I'd never seen it before, but large franchises pull the best talent from corporate organizations because they usually can pay more because, you just have that latitude. So obviously if they're very forward thinking and aggressive in adding talent. But have you guys seen that in your franchise world? Have you seen a lot of talent being plucked from corporate organizations because of that?
I think it's a question that you probably better be able to answer, Dan.
Well, I can tell you that I went out to launch a franchisor and quickly realized if I built the vision of a platform, and that was the goal, I could attract much different people because they wanted to build a larger vision. So yes, we definitely get people applying from private equity backed organizations. But that's because when you think about like a startup and a certain culture that Playbook has, we definitely have like that. Like I almost think of like the not the negative parts, but like the highlights of the tech company, but applied to franchising. We're tight knit. I mean, my team, we talk 7 days a week. We're all becoming good friends. I can't explain the culture. It's unique. My goal and vision is to very much preserve that, no matter how much we grow. So yes, we do attract people from bigger companies, but they have to come. Everything has a pro and con. So they come into, we're going to have some bumps and some issues, and everything's not going to be perfectly buttoned up. Yeah. And so it depends on the person.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You got to find talent anywhere you can. But I guess the point I was trying to make is that, the corporate organizations, you kind of have a ceiling in a lot of those, even if you're very successful, which I thought I was pretty successful in that world. But, there's always sort of that, the ceiling where, at some point it comes time to, look outside, and the franchise world's oftentimes a great place to advance your career.
No doubt. Yeah. What I'm loving about this conversation is because I think so many people, when they think of franchising, they see somebody, or maybe they know somebody, and that person owns one location or whatever. And I don't think a lot of people really fully understand exactly how scalable the franchise model is, and just how much wealth you can truly build within franchising if you do own several locations. I mean, and granted, you don't need to own 200 to build a massive wealth and a massive asset, massive income for yourself and for your team, and to be able to give back and do all these great things. But it's so nice about talking to you is just to hear that it's possible. And so I guess what I'm curious about, and you've been with them now for 4 years, right? Or just about?
Yeah, just about 4 years, Christian.
So how many locations did they have when you first came on, and then they have about 200 now, you said?
Yeah, we have about 200. We were in the IHOP world as well when I came on. So I was the director of talent acquisition for 50 IHOP restaurants as well. But yeah, so we were in that world, and then we were in the Pizza Hut world before I came about, and with 40 or 50 of those as well. But now we're all Taco Bell. So yeah, I mean, it came about. So I guess we built 5 to 7 a year. I think we had about 170. Because we'll offset some here or there if towns move down the road. And lease runs out. But yeah, so that's so we're right at probably 10-15% more. We probably slowed down. We built a couple stores less during COVID, like everybody did. Kind of slowed down a bit, but yeah, that's been honestly the most exciting thing for me, being in this company, is just becoming more well-rounded, because when you're in the franchise world, you're just exposed to way more of the business. At Waffle House, I saw my recruiting world, and that was kind of where it ends. There's really no value that you can add outside of that. But I've learned so much about construction and development and real estate. I mean, I get more excited when I'm listening to the real estate presentations than I do half of the time on my own, just because that commercial real estate is, that whole bucket is just so fascinating to me. Like, where to move stores. I mean, it's like they say it's like playing Monopoly. That's our CEO. He's like, it's just all it is Monopoly. I mean, you can make it complicated, but that's what it is.
I love that. So I'm just trying to get a sense of how the scaling was done, because there's different strategies to scale, and you could build the location from scratch. You can grow through acquisition by acquiring other existing stores. How primarily how have you guys scaled, or at least since you've been there?
No, great question. So we were built through acquisitions, Christian. We were built through 5 acquisitions, and then obviously we add to those as we build. And so that's why when you say we're Southeast QSR, I don't even think I answered the question, but Southeast QSR is one of our entities. But it's kind of we're common. If you have 5 entities, you got to be known by something. So historically we've been, Southeast QSR I think was the first acquisition. So anyway, we're kind of commonly referred to, and that's what I made our LinkedIn page is to call us Southeast QSR. So yeah, built through acquisitions and then continue to grow.
For sure. Wait, so then
let me
go ahead, Dan.
Oh, I'm sorry. What would you say? Like, what do you think? Like, I'm just curious because I want to apply this idea that someone at a large scale has 200 businesses running semi-absentee, if you will, like it's not in the day-to-day. This is the owner from the owner's. What do you think the day-to-day for the owner is, if anything? Is he involved, or is it pretty much hands-off, or is it?
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's a lot of financial controller type work, but CFO type work. But yeah, what do you think the day looks like?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And it varies wildly from, I've talked to a lot of CEOs from other organizations and other executives from other organizations, and it runs the gamut of a CEO that's in the office from, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, to the CEO like ours. Well, I shouldn't say that, like to a CEO that is totally hands off and, just kind of shows up at the quarterly meetings. Our CEO is very much involved in the business on a day to day. He is the CFO. He jokes that we'll never have a CFO because then what would he do? But yeah, so he's essentially our CFO with his banking background, or investment banking background. But yeah, he's in it. He's a passionate, 60 something year old man. I can tell you that I've never met anybody that has the drive for excellence, that this guy does. Point is you don't stumble across 200 restaurants, I guess, put it that way. Right. He lives it, like you guys say.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely doesn't happen by accident. You have to be pretty intentional to achieve that level of growth.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I know for me, like I thought I worked hard before, and now I realize I wasn't working hard. This is hard. Being a franchisor is harder in a good way, but I can't imagine what it takes to build 200 stores. It takes hard work, but also consistent for 30 years. Like you said, it's a lifestyle that he chose to pursue.
Yeah. When it comes down, what I think separates somebody that, has the capacity for, maybe 10 stores or 15 stores. We have some little smaller franchises around here. And I think the difference is his ability to like leverage, credit and leverage, financing is just expert level, is probably not even high enough of what this guy is. I mean, he knows so intricately, how a business works financially and how to leverage to buy more businesses he's actually made some of his best decisions have been to shed and sell, 10 stores here. So he's just really forward thinking and he can really see. That's what I admire about our CEO is number one skill outside of obviously the financing and the finance piece that a lot of smaller franchises don't have. But I think what separates him is he's able to see what's going to happen. And he's done this time and time again since I've been here. He's able to see the headwinds that are coming before they happen. And frankly, before it's, the industry sees it and before other franchises see it. We raise wages. We had to be really aggressive on raising wages over the last year. Literally overnight we did. I mean, it was a 911 for us. He was like, I want you to put all 5,000 employees in a bucket and they're of whatever bucket they're in, they're going to get that raise and like overnight. So, and he was doing this before other people were. And I think it really kept us afloat during those times during COVID or during sort of the COVID recovery period where nobody was coming back to work. He was forward thinking enough to raise wages, and we opened our dining rooms well before most other folks did. So anyway, I think that's his probably biggest skill is he just sees things before other people do.
Yeah, I mean, let's dive into that because obviously we're at in the market cycle. Everyone is thinking we're either in a recession or we're heading into one, and inflation has been high, and now it's slowing down a little bit now, but usually that there's a reason for that, and that might be because the economy is slowing down.
Yeah.
So what sort of economic headwinds right now are influencing decisions? I mean, I guess we know the headwinds that are maybe influencing the decisions, but what kind of, whatever you guys can talk about, but what kind of decision making is happening now? I mean, what is he seeing on the horizon, and what sort of decisions are being made to deal with that?
Yeah. Well, I think for us in 2023, our sort of priority or I guess mantra maybe is just getting back to pre-COVID running a business. I mean, we were for so many years there, you're in the thick of it, just trying to beg people to show up and beg people to, to come to an interview. And then, you're just throwing labor at the problem. Right. And, in our business, labor is, the majority of your bottom line, right. Or a good portion of it. So just running a more efficient business like we were in pre-COVID times and not just sort of throwing things against the wall because, we are out of largely out of COVID and a lot of those things that we were doing. So that's on the sort of the priority side. And I think a lot of people are doing that. Fewer, better people. I think that's what is, that, we want to pay the most in the industry. And we want to have really productive people because, the day, I mean, you're starting a business, Dan, the day and age of having 15 team members on the floor for every shift is gone. You have to have 3, 4, 5 really, and obviously your business is probably very different, but in the restaurant business, the days of the McDonald's having 15 people on a shift is over. You need 5, 6, 7 people maybe on a busy shift, but with the wages, what you have to pay to get talent now, it just can't sustain, kind of mass staffing model.
Yeah, that's a challenge that I don't know how you solve other than, obviously some supplementation with technology, which obviously is not loved by anyone in work. And so, I don't know. Or you raise the prices of the hamburger, which
we've done that. We've done that too, like everyone else has. I mean
the taco. Sorry.
Yeah, the taco. Yeah. No, the tacos are not $1.50 anymore. Like once upon a time. But no, you have to take pricing, and I mean, we can pay people. I always tell people we can pay people whatever you want us to pay them. We'll pay them $20, $30 an hour, but your nachos Bel Grande may be $11.
Yeah. It's interesting though. Like this is why I do think, and I may be wrong, but this is a theory that I've started to have, which is that Taco Bell, Dunkin' Donuts, gyms, anything brick and mortar where it's just a little bit different. They come to you into the box. They have the experience. They leave the box of the place. I think that is much easier. The margins might be different than home services. But I think that is why it's able to have 200. I think to have 200, and you don't need to because the home services is different in the sense that it's, you can grow in a market and penetrate more. But, I think that if you said to me, what's more semi-absentee, it's definitely brick and mortar. It's not home service because I see a trend in home services where people try to say, oh, it's semi-absentee. It's very hard to run a home services business without having a lot of involvement in the beginning, at least. Whereas I think a Taco Bell model lends itself to being able to scale to 200. I don't want to say easier, but it is more scalable in that sense. What do you think, Christian or Greg?
Well, it's less about building sales. I mean, you're trying to build business, right? You're trying to build business, and whereas Taco Bell corporate, I mean, Taco Bell has about the best marketing team that you'll find. Right. I mean, try to turn your TV on and not see a Taco Bell ad, like or a sporting event or whatever. So we have a really strong. They have a really strong national marketing platform. So for us, it's not as much about building sales as it is about running a really good established business. But you're in a space where you got to find clients and find business. So that's a hands-on deal there, man.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, and this is what I've heard from a lot of the other professionals in the industry as well. Look, home services, in many cases, especially at the beginning, it might be a lower investment initially, right? There's no build out required. It's home based in some cases, but like you said, it's more of a sales driven organization more of a lead generation. It's more of a marketing driven organization. You're not waiting for people are not coming to you. You have to go to the people. You have to find those people. And at the end of the day, yeah, I think brick and mortar lends itself to being a little bit more semi-absentee because of that. You're not having to motivate and run and manage sales teams, or at least manage the person that's running those sales teams. So, I mean, I think you could be semi-absentee in home services, but you really have to do it right, because if you're not compensating that general manager correctly and they dip, you're kind of SOL. And it depends on your team and the leadership. It's not just about the general manager. It's also about everybody else, like your assistant managers and everyone else on your team, or who's your salesperson and your operations lead or whatever. Those people need to really be bought in, and they need to be developing themselves personally, and they need to be getting mentored and coached by the GM and by you as the franchisee, so that if something does happen to the GM, you don't have to necessarily go out and hire outside, although you can,
right,
but you have people within the organization that can step up to the plate and maybe step in as GM. So, and that takes time to do. It takes time to build those people up, and, you know, but yeah, I would agree with Dan, where I think that a lot of brick and mortar does lend itself more to being able to be semi-absentee, you know, from the gate even, and then even over time as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of ways to approach it. You know, you can, if you're, you know, let's say you got one McDonald's or one, you know, Taco Bell. Well, you know, if you can, you know, manage that business for maybe a year before you hire a GM, you know, you can really get it up and running and have some money to reinvest back in the business. But, you know, if you kind of go right out of the gate and you got to pay somebody $80,000 a year, you know, it's probably going to be a little more pressure there at the beginning. But, you know, Dan's business, when he's starting, he's, you know, as soon as he builds the sales and builds, you know, client base, then the next thing is developing people, right? But you got to have the sales first, because you're not going to have a team without the sales. And whereas at Taco Bell, you're really from day one, when we open a new restaurant, we're trying to build a stable, you know, management team, and then thereby, you know, an hourly team after that. But you know, it's all people, you know, so we're super people focused, and you have to be, or otherwise you're going to have to close your lobby or, you know, run on limited hours. There's, you know, it's just a different landscape these days.
Yeah, no doubt. It really depends on how much margin you have to work with too, right?
100%. Yeah.
And how much, you know, what ramp up period you can, you know, stomach and deal with, and the financial position of the franchisee. But something I am curious about, and I don't know if this is something you can talk about, so feel free to not answer this if not, but
yeah.
Like a Taco Bell, opening up a Taco Bell is not cheap. I haven't looked at their FDD recently, but, you know, it's a pretty hefty investment for the traditional location, right?
For like an initial investment for a Taco Bell, you know, it's I'm probably embarrassed to say this, but I have no idea what it costs for a single Taco Bell, because obviously, you know, we had a big portion of them, and also he bought those from building other businesses, and then obviously taking that money and getting into Taco Bell. But I don't know what one Taco Bell would cost. As far as what you talking like kind of franchise startup fee type of
yeah,
deal?
And just like the all-in initial investment to get started. I mean, it's up in the millions.
Really?
You know, for many of them. But if you're growing by acquisition, you know, I mean, there's different ways that you can get creative in terms of the way that you acquire them. I don't know if you know much about the structure of what the owner does to acquire some of these brands, but I mean, seller financing is huge if people are willing to seller finance.
Yeah, we like to. I mean, he's got a you know, he's got a pretty strong real estate background, so you know, we like to have the land if we can, because then, you know, you're essentially paying yourself rent there. So you know, we like that. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's when I go back to that monopoly analogy, it's sort of like he said in the real estate world. For us, it's like, where do we put 4 houses? Where do we put a hotel? And so it's kind of that same mentality when you're looking, you know, where to build these Taco Bells. But yeah, it's all creative through creative financing, and you know, leveraging your current business that you have. And I mean, I think he bought them at very low multiples, and to get into a Taco Bell now is stupid multiples, like 6 or 7 or something like that. And so I think we bought them at 3 or 4 or something like that.
Wow.
But yeah, so yeah, it's that's the other piece of it. It's what brand are you behind? You know this better than anybody, but you know, Taco Bell, I can say, is it's pretty insane, the margins. I would just say that they're incomparable in the industry, being that, the burger folks, much less margin, just because a hamburger costs more to make than a taco. I think a taco a couple of years ago was like 26 cents to make. Man, what do you sell it? Back then it was probably $1.60, or now it's probably like $2. So, so just it's a Big Mac costs more, I guess, is the point.
For sure.
Or a burger costs more to make. So it's great to be behind a really good brand. I think but like I say, better than anybody, but you got to pick a good brand. And, Taco Bell is really forward thinking, and they have a great national marketing campaign. I mean, they just check a lot of the boxes, and then obviously the margins, certainly help as well. So it's a really good business.
Absolutely. So I know you mentioned before that SEQSR had owned quite a few IHOPs and quite a few Pizza Huts. What do you know about the decision, or what was the thought process behind transitioning out of those and then just going full force with Taco Bell?
Yeah, so Southeast QSR didn't own it; it was another company. But yeah, I get what you're saying. No, I get what you're saying. But so the IHOPs were always a small part of the business as far as our for return first, but also sort of our efforts. They were they sort of we kind of ran them a little bit more, I guess you say passively, because we had pretty stable management in there. But really through COVID is what sped it up. It was probably something that was going to happen down the road. But within 3 weeks, of COVID, it just sped up that process of, we were literally, doing like $20 in sales, for a shift. And so you just can't hemorrhage money for that long. Waffle House, where I came from, furloughed all of the recruiters within 2 weeks of COVID happening. So you just saw this sort of whiplash, of whether it be downsizing or eliminating or furloughing, all the things that happened. And, we were not immune to that. But luckily, obviously, if you had a drive-through, you were on the opposite side. So it's like our IHOP business, obviously struggled through that. And then, and on the other side, we're doing record sales and drive-through and still continue to do record sales week in and week out in the Taco Bell business. So it's kind of interesting to see the both.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, the thing that's tough with IHOP is during the pandemic, there isn't exactly a drive-through for pancakes. So
no, and they don't travel well either.
Right, exactly.
Eggs and pancakes are not good travel catering items either. But they tried. Anybody that had a sit down presence that couldn't serve food through the drive-through, you had to get really creative back then. So catering became a huge thing, and then I think the digital really was sped up. People's willingness to use digital. I mean, digital was always, mobile orders was always, couple of percents of our sales. And now it's like 10, if not in some markets, 20. So, people are getting more comfortable with that mobile ordering feature as well. So that's kind of a development that's been interesting.
Got it. No, that makes sense. Yeah. Technology and, people are getting pretty addicted to convenience. I mean, most of us, we've grown up in, relative convenience, but I mean, some of the stuff you can do now with Amazon Prime and everything, I mean, it's crazy. And so, yeah, ordering and using that app it's helpful. Uber Eats and all that. So
for sure.
So where do you guys go now as an organization? I mean, because in so many people's minds, I'm sure that are listening to this, they're like, all right, 200 plus Taco Bells. You kind of won the game, right? I mean, is it time to put the Monopoly pieces back in the box, or is it? I mean, I'm of the mindset that you're either growing or you're dying. Sure. Maintenance is a myth. I don't think that you're going to maintain. The market shifts, landscapes change. You have to be dynamic and be able to pivot. So there's no such thing as just keeping what you have and staying still. You're either growing and advancing or you're shrinking back. So what are the goals of the organization? Where are you guys looking to move forward? Are you guys looking to get to 300 Taco Bells, 500? Are you looking to expand into other brands? What's the mindset? Yeah,
no, that's a great question. And I've asked that same question. When I first started, after I was here for a few months, I was like, how is this guy on fire so much? Like he's already made it. Like he's there. And how does he have this burning, sort of desire for excellence? And, so it was very inspiring, first of all, but just to see that drive was really cool. And I mean, that's why, he is where he is, but at the same time, he doesn't stop, and thereby, we sort of follow that lead in the sense of, we want to be the best Taco Bell organization there is. He doesn't care, and we don't care about size. We're not trying to have 300 or 400 stores. We're slow and steady like that. There's a reason why he has, like I say, he has this many that have been so successful for so long. He's, I think 15 years or so he's had them, and it's because of the slow and steady growth. He's not you've seen him before. Everybody's seen, man, there's 10 coffee shops in my town. And, and I didn't even know there was one. And then a year later, the 10 coffee shops are closed. Right. And because, you don't have time to build that infrastructure, and maybe your financing maybe is not always where it needs to be. And you're sort of overly leveraged and all of that. And so he's been smart not to make those decisions, and just that slow and steady growth. And so that's really the goal for us moving forward is, like I said, to run a more efficient business, and just have fewer, better people. We want to keep raising the level of talent in the organization, which is obviously my job. So that's a big part of what we're trying to do is, we want to be better than Taco Bell corporate. We want to be better than any other large franchise. And we're pretty close to there now, but yeah, continued, like you say, continued growth or you get stagnant. So,
right.
So yeah, we've done a lot of succession planning over these last few years too, because we had a lot of legacy leadership that had been with us for since the beginning essentially, and so a lot of our market leaders were getting near retirement, and so that was a big part of why I came on. So yeah, we've added a lot of strong talent to the business in the last couple of years.
It's fantastic. Yeah, so it sounds like you're not trying to bite off more than you can chew. You're doing it smart and strategically if you do grow, but a lot of it sounds like you guys are just trying to grow at the unit level, grow the units you already have, run more efficient operations, grow the revenue that you have. And then I'm sure if opportunities come to add more, you guys will, but you're not doing it in a way that's irresponsible and too much too soon.
Yeah.
Which makes a ton of sense to me.
No, the challenge though, Christian, is that, where do you know that it has how far are you from a Taco Bell right now?
Not far.
So most people aren't. And so, you can't just play, it's not, I heard you on another podcast talk about it. It really makes a difference. If you're in more of an emerging brand, you can have a territory and kind of build where you want, and you can own that market. You got to get really creative with growing Taco Bells, because you can't just plop one down next to another one with the impact that you'd have. So you have to really be creative where you put them. And so that's why we have such an in-depth research process from our real estate team as they're identifying sites and all that. Because, I think, and for example, in Tampa, I think there's 42 DMAs that you can build Taco Bells in, and 39 of them you can't build a Taco Bell in. So, wow. So you got to, that's why you're seeing a lot of more rural areas being real growth markets, and why a lot of folks are moving to the Southeast and companies are coming to Texas and Florida, because, you still have an element of obviously no state income tax and things like that, but you have also more geography and, rural areas that you can grow your brand as well. So
makes total sense to me, man.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, I think this was awesome. I think this was really exciting for people to hear just how big you can get as a franchisee. I mean, the sky really is the limit. And so I encourage people to dream big. I mean, if you're cool with just one location, awesome. Make sure you communicate that vision to your team. But if you do want to grow, there's no reason you should stop at 3 or 5. You could grow into 200 if you want, right? You don't have to.
Yeah.
But it just seems like so much fun. And again, when you think about it in terms of monopoly and you almost gamify it, I think it just sounds like a blast to be able to do that, because you're changing lives along the way. All the people that are a part of the organization, the skills that they're learning, and bringing some tasty food all across America, man. I love that that Crunchwrap Supreme. you got to have it. You got to have it. No, I'll just say one more thing. I was going to say for folks that are listening that maybe starting their career or potentially looking to talk to you to get into a franchise or some other business. Because obviously you're going to have a lot of entrepreneurs that look to you guys.
what I would just say is, this company that our CEO built did not come. He didn't wake up one morning and say, I want to buy 200 Taco Bells. He built it through. I mean, I mentioned, I don't know if we talked about it earlier, but I mentioned I think they started with porta potties. So it was like, 30 porta potties. So, it could be vending machines. It could be, if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, you roll that stuff into, you make this business successful, this small business, then you can roll it into, something larger. And, and there's, like you mentioned before, plenty of financing options out there to do that. But it's attainable. But you start on, even if it's, you start with one vending machine, and it's amazing how quick, and how quickly that can turn into something much bigger than you thought in a very short period of time. So.
Exactly. Just put one foot in front of the other and just focus on growth. It doesn't have to be trying to punch the lights out, just one foot at a time, one store at a time, one additional territory at a time. And as long as you're growing your people and you're having fun, I think, as long as you're enjoying the journey, which I'm sure that, the franchisee that you work with that blew this up with you guys and with your help, I'm sure he had a blast doing it. Right. And that's probably why he's continuing to be so involved, because it's probably fun for him. So, so I think it's easy to focus just on the destination and getting to however many locations it is that you maybe have in mind, but just start building, have fun with the process. And then maybe someday you wake up where you're at the point where you have a massive franchise organization as a franchisee and you have 200 plus stores.
Yeah, no, it's fun. And it's, like you say, slow and steady it wins the race. And, but passion is where it starts. And, our CEO and I like to think myself as well have a passion for people. And if you have that and you want to grow people, that's what our CEO does all day, every day. He says if he had a business card, it would just say people development, because so we have a head of professional development in our company. So he's looking at Christian's career path and saying, hey, here's how long you've been here. What is the next thing for you? What do you need to work on? Here's a 360 feedback from your peers. Like, you just don't see that in restaurant organizations broadly. And so I'm really proud that, we don't just talk about, everybody says they want to develop people, but are you putting salary behind it? Are you putting resources behind it? And that's kind of the proof's in the pudding there. So yeah, that's a great message.
For sure. Yeah. It's such a different mentality. No doubt about it, man. It's a way different mentality coming from corporate to coming into an organization like this. I love that so much. If I could put one thing on my business card, it would be, what was it? People management
people development or training. I think he either said people development or training, but that's all it is,
Right. If you can get good at building up people, everything else will fall into place. That's what the routine theme that I hear from so many franchisees and franchisors I talk to. If you can build up people and push up people and care about them and it's not about you, it's about what you can do for them and how you can serve them as a leader. And if you focus on that, everything else will fall into place for you and they're going to be happy and you're going to have a lot of great friends and great relationships with the people that work with you and you're going to be a happy camper. So man,
100%.
I love that. People developer. I got to put that on my business card.
People developer. Yeah, it definitely is. It's what keeps it going. And, I'm a recruiter, right? So I'm looking for outside talent, but you can only hire so much external, you have to develop internal. And so we always try to strike a balance with that because, you don't want to have 100% internal promotions either because you erode your talent very quickly. However, you can't have 100% external either because then you erode the culture and you erode the career path and,
motivation.
That motivation. Yeah. For, where's the carrot? Where's the next carrot for the employee? If they know that you're just going to hire somebody outside to be their boss. So what doesn't matter anyway. But there's a real balance you have to strike there. Because you do have to infuse the organization with talent, but at the same time, you have to have really strong internal development programs. And that can be a 200 store business, or that could be, one Great Clips, or one small business, right? It's no different.
Absolutely, man. Well, anything you want to leave the audience with, like a last piece of wisdom or piece of advice when it comes to maybe talent acquisition or just mindset as they grow their franchise, anything at all?
Yeah, I would just say open mind. Keep an open mind. I'll tell you, I didn't I wouldn't have thought in a million years I would have worked for a Waffle House, nor Taco Bell, and much less in a recruiting capacity. So I would just say keep an open mind to what's out there. Not only, in your world, you're trying to have people keep an open mind about, franchise opportunity they may not have ever thought in a million years they would be doing. But oftentimes people, think or get pigeonholed into, this is just the next thing that I'm going to do. And, I can move to this position and sort of move up the corporate ladder. But I would just say if you have more of an open mind and a little bit of a risk taker, you can do things that you never thought you'd be doing. And I'm a good example of that. I have no real skill, marketable skill coming in, and leading a recruiting department has been a really cool learning experience. So I appreciate you having me on here, Christian.
Absolutely, man. Greg, thanks for coming on, man. This has been so fun to talk about and super inspiring for me and I'm sure for the audience that's listening. So really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on. Thanks everyone for hopping on to another episode of the Franchise Founders Podcast. As always, if you'd like our help buying a franchise and figuring out which opportunities might be the right fit for you, reach out to us and we'll help you out, franchisefounders@gmail.com. Although we're likely going to be changing that email pretty soon because we are rebranding. And then, of course, if you got some value out of this episode and really found it helpful and excited, share it. Share it with people you know. Share it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever it is. And leave a review as well. We appreciate that. That helps us to reach more people, preach the good message that is franchising and the changes that it can make in people's lives and the wealth it can help people create.
You're f***ing fired.
If you want to say those words to your boss, make sure you head on over to ifiredmybosspodcast.com and fill out the form to schedule a no-cost consultation. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might also want to fire their boss.